Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Good. It's a good crowd. Today is November 5th, 2018, and you're in the Rowan County Commission meeting, our first meeting of the month, and we are very pleased that you're here with us today. We hope you find your time profitable as you spend some time with us. It's our honor. So we begin our meeting, as do elected bodies all across this nation. We do a couple of things. First thing we're going to do is we're going to have what's called a solemnizing prayer. These are prayers that are for the commissioners. They're not for you. If you want one, you can have your own, or you can become a commissioner, and then you can get one of these. But this is a solemnizing prayer, and it's for us because we take what we do very seriously, and we're looking for as much wisdom as possible as we make decisions on behalf of the county. Following that, we'll have a pledge to our flag. So, commissioners, if you join me, we'll get ready.
Lord, I'm glad that I can be here today to intercede on behalf of these county commissioners today. You said come boldly into the throne of grace to obtain mercy, to find grace to help in a time of need. And we have a time of need today as they meet today, Lord. Thank you for the preparation they've made, and pray you give them the wisdom they need in this meeting today. And thank you for all those who are in attendance today, Lord. Thank you for this county that we have a privilege to be able to live in and serve in, Lord. Pray your blessings upon this meeting today. Again, we pray for knowledge today in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Chaplain Taylor. As always, we appreciate it. Before we get going, I would like to recognize a guest that we have with us here today. Miss Jessica Redmond is back there. Would you stand and maybe we can give her some applause? She's a college student at UNC Charlotte, right? And she is taking a political science class, and she said she's fulfilling a class requirement, so she has to be here. But maybe she'll have a good enough time where she'll come back and join us later. And she has her younger sister with her, and I guess, no, I don't know. I guess are you her mother? And is that a brother? Okay, well, it's good to have all of you here. So please come back and see us again. All right, so we've got one item that we want to add to the consent agenda. It's been placed before you for a special call meeting for November 13th, 2018. We'll make that item H. And do we have any other additions or deletions to the agenda? All right, if not, do we have a motion to approve the agenda as amended?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
The minutes have been provided for us. Minutes of October 15th, 2018. Motion to approve the minutes.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And then, let's see. We've already done the consent. All right, so do we have anyone signed up for public comment? Is Ronnie, did I miss something? I did the regular agenda, but all right, which one did I do?
You did the consent.
I did the consent first. All right, hold on, Ronnie. So we need a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
So moved.
Second.
And then we need to approve the consent agenda. Do we have a motion?
As amended.
As amended.
So moved.
In a second. All right. All in favor, say aye.
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 Very sorry. Got ahead of myself. I was so excited to hear from Ronnie Smith, but I got ahead of myself.
Now, when's the special meeting? Special call
that-
meeting? Yeah, we can't do it on the 13th, that's a holiday.
12th was a holiday. Yeah, they moved it.
So you
We
moved it already?
Yeah, to the 13th, which is Tuesday.
Oh,
Okay.
that's because I was on the wrong
Last year.
Yeah, it was last year, excuse me.
All right, do we have anyone signed up for public comment? Yep. Hey, Ronnie Smith. Ronnie, welcome back. We've missed you.
Thank you very much, and I missed you too. I decided to maybe limit my public comments to quarterly instead of monthly. But I would like to recognize our chairman, Greg Eds made an outstanding presentation this past Friday to the Rowan Early College Group out at Rowan Cabarrus, and it was an outstanding presentation, and we can all be very proud of Rowan County and what he was able to share with about 200 early college students. I'll be very brief. Good afternoon. My name is Ronnie Smith. I feel like I'm a member of your family now. My purpose today, and I'm going to be very brief and read fast, is to provide you with another update on the status of several projects, most notably our Rowan County Vietnam Veterans Memorial, a project that we initiated almost 8 years ago, and that's supported by almost every single veteran in Rowan County. Today I brought along a plaque from my desk at home. And to quote Winston Churchill, if you believe in what you're doing and you know in your heart that it's good and right, never, never, never give up. And I share that with you today because we're here today. We're now in the 3rd year of asking for the support of the city and the county for this magnificent project. It's now been delayed or obstructed at least 10 times over the last 2.5 years. We had planned to dedicate it on Veterans Day this coming Monday, and unfortunately that will not happen. I do want to thank Aaron and Mike and Greg. On October the 3rd, you met with me and the City Council representatives, and we identified 5 locations in Rowan County for this monument. We hope and pray that by next year, on Veterans Day of 2019, we will be able to dedicate that. With your full support, we know that will happen. Without it, it may never happen. Also, as on your consent agenda, we want to invite everyone, every citizen, to our Veterans Ceremony at 10 a.m. next Monday at the VA Building 6, and a Veterans Day parade will follow that ceremony. We hope as many of you as possible will be able to attend. That concludes my comments, but I do have one more note. For your information only, we've been visiting with Davidson County on the Yadkin River Park, and they are so excited and so anxious to do a collaborative effort with Rowan County to make that park one of the finest in the state of North Carolina. We hope we'll have your support on that as well. And on Sunday, November the 11th, there will be a preliminary vote on Trinity Oaks Downtown, a high-rise, multi-story apartment building in downtown Salisbury. Please support us on both of these projects, and thank you for your wonderful service. Good luck to those of you who are running for election, and remember, never, never, never give up. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ron Smith. All right, we'll move on to our first item, Aaron Poplin, quasi-judicial hearing for CUP 07-18. As we prepare for this, I'm required by law to read the following statement. The hearing for consideration of CUP 07-18 is now in session and will focus on an application submitted by Curtis and Cynthia Spell to construct a residential storage facility on tax parcel 614127 located at Water's Edge. If you feel any member of the board may have conflict of interest in hearing the case, please address the board now prior to any testimony or information being presented. When the board enters into deliberations to decide the case, no further testimony may be presented. The board will render one of the following 3 decisions. They'll approve the permit as requested or with additional conditions. They'll continue the request or deny the request. All parties who plan to testify in this case may come forward and be sworn in. Those who testify must state their name and address at the podium for the benefit of the board's clerk. All material presented must be given to the clerk and would become part of the record. The board can only accept sworn testimony. No hearsay evidence is admissible. And Aaron, thank you for being here.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. All right, we have the quasi-judicial hearing for CUP 07-18, the residential storage facility for parcel 614-127 in Water's Edge. And the owners/applicants are both here today, Curtis and Cynthia Spell. So Water's Edge is a RS zone subdivision, and the lot we're looking at is a half-acre lot off of Deer Lake Run. So the owners are looking to put a 2,500 square foot boathouse out there. It's pretty common in that subdivision. There are 4 others like it. And this has already been approved through their architectural review committee as to meeting their standards, but has to go through the conditional use process because it doesn't meet what we can approve administratively. So taking a look around the subdivision, you can see it's a pretty nice neighborhood out there. This is the submitted site plan. They have the driveway coming in here, opening up to the boathouse there. And then there are the specific requirements for a residential storage facility, and that's that the parcel's in fee simple ownership, which it is, that the structure is compatible with construction in the surrounding area, and it's been approved by the Architectural Review Committee. The maximum size allowed is 3,000 square feet, and this is 2,500. No outdoor storage is allowed except for provided otherwise, and there's none proposed. The minimum lot size shall be the same for a single-family residence, and this does meet the minimum lot size. The storage of vehicles shall not be in the front yard, and there's none proposed. The outside lighting shall be designed to prevent the glare on adjoining residences, and there's none proposed. And the setback shall be the minimum as a single-family dwelling, and it does meet those setbacks. So there are the 6 conditional use criteria that it must meet, and in your packet was the responses to those. And then with the conditional use process, you must adopt 3 separate motions to adopt findings of fact, and you have a procedural checklist there with you, and then have a motion to approve, deny, or table CUP 0718. If you got any questions, both me and the applicants are here today.
Any questions for Aaron? All right, Aaron, thank you. Don't go far. All right, so would the applicants, do you have anything you'd like to add?
No, I think not. I mean, what we're trying to do is kind of improve the area because otherwise you can see there's a boat sitting there already. So we put everything inside, make it look nice. And also that property can't be used for anything like residential or anything like that. So it should improve the area.
I think you explained to me that you live across the street.
Yeah, we live across the street,
And so-
like 2 lots across the street.
So it's common for folks in that subdivision to buy a lot across the street for septic?
Yeah, well, the community has a common septic system. So the lots, where my lot's at, or our lots are at, the community system is right behind that. So you can't build a residential house there. And it's not going to have a tap or anything like that where you hook up a house. So it's not usable for anything else. It's my understanding also that you have to live in the development, own property in development to actually buy the lot. So it's pretty much restricted for use. So it's a good use for that property.
And then your association has, I think he said, approved the design?
Yes, it's
So-
the Architecture Review Committee. They approved it. We had to go back, we went back and forth a few times because, of course, I want to get as cheap as they can. They want to make it as nice as they can. So we're just going to have vinyl siding. My wife picked everything out. Architectural shingles and vinyl trim and garage doors and brick foundation. So it's going to look like a nice piece of building.
Any other questions for the applicant? All right, thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
So what we'll do now is we'll open the floor for a public hearing. If there's anyone here that would like to speak to this, whether it's for or against, now would be the time. All right, seeing no one, we'll close the floor, the public hearing, and commissioners, we have for us 3 findings of fact. If someone would like to offer those up individually, we'll vote on those and then make a final motion.
The development of the property in accordance with the proposed conditions will not materially endanger the public health or safety. Fact. This request complies with all 8 specific requirements identified in Section 21-60, Parent 10 for residential storage facilities. Fact. The proposed structure is subject to compliance with applicable building code standards.
Can you make that in the form of a motion?
Yes, sir.
Second.
All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Finding 2.
I move that the development of the property in accordance with the proposed conditions will not substantially injure the value of adjoining or abutting property, or that the development is a public necessity. Fact, no material evidence was presented suggesting this request would injure property values.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Number 3.
I move that the location and character of the development in accordance with the proposed conditions will be in general harmony with the area in which it is located and in general conformity with any adopted county plans. Fact, the proposed building has been approved by the Architectural Design Committee of Water's Edge.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Do we have a motion to approve CUP 07-18?
So moved.
Second.
All-
Seconded.
I think they want to get out of here early. All right. Thank you. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you, and good luck to you.
Thank you, sir. Thanks, everyone.
Let me just give you a bit of advice. Since that property is not contiguous to your house, make sure that you contact your insurance agent and let them know that that building is not contiguous so that they can make sure that it's covered properly.
Yes, sir, I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Mr. Muir, welcome.
Thank you. So this particular item is just an update on the moratorium that was adopted by the board on August 6th, which is effective until February 6th of 2019. And based on the timeline that's in the moratorium, this process is on schedule. And again, it's a 6-month moratorium. What we have for discussion today are the draft recommendations from the planning board. They have not conducted a courtesy hearing, and so this is not so that you can set a hearing. It's more just to see the progress that's been made up until this point and give them any suggestions or guidance or ask questions about what's occurred so far. So with that being said, we'll jump right into the material. So the planning board, more specifically one of the committees of the planning board, proposed 5 new definitions. The first is for a campground. Basically, a campground is for primitive tent camping for recreation, education, or vacation purposes. It's a piece of property where one site or more are used for this purpose. Campgrounds cannot provide spaces for recreational vehicles, and we'll see what the rationale for that is just a little bit later. But this definition or these rules are not intended to apply to someone camping on their own property or families. The next item is a dump station. These have to be approved and permitted by the Rowan County Health Department. They're basically a septic system or a holding tank on site. The definition for a light-duty truck is one that is contained in the flood damage prevention ordinance, which this board recently updated within the last month or so. Recreational vehicle is either one that's towed or can move under its own power. The item that I would draw to your attention, as I think some may have questions about this, is item D. It's designed primarily not for use as a permanent dwelling, but as a temporary living quarter for recreational camping, travel, or seasonal use. And then item E, it is also fully licensed and ready for highway use. A recreational vehicle park is where an area or property is set up to accommodate the parking, rental, letting, or leasing of sites for recreational vehicle. A recreational vehicle park may also provide sites or spaces for primitive tent camping. So just to recap, campgrounds don't allow RVs, but RV parks can allow primitive camping. Okay? So then we get into the standards. Embedded in our ordinance was this requirement for campgrounds and recreational vehicle parks, and what the committee elected to do is just really amend the existing text of the ordinance. So the minimum lot size stays the same at 2 acres, setbacks stay the same, density is determined by the health department. Where the changes occur are the interior drive. We've now included a provision for hammerhead-style turnarounds or some suitable alternative. That was a recommendation from the Rowan County Fire Marshal. And also that each internal road have a road name and addresses for each site displayed. Again, those are 2 new requirements. When you get down to the additional standards, you'll see there that maybe some of the rationale between differentiating between a campground and RV park happens here. These standards only apply to RV parks and not campgrounds. So in an RV park, you're going to have a water supply is required. It's going to be, it can be one main source or it can be 2 individuals. However, the developer wants to set these up. But regardless, they're going to be permitted by the health department. Likewise, the sewage disposal, it can be a dump station or some other adequate on-site sewage collection disposal system. It's going to be subject to permitting by the Rowan County Health Department as well. They'll need some provision for trash removal provided, and they're also going to have a requirement, for street addressing and displaying of addresses. This particular requirement would be retroactive as well. It would apply to all existing campgrounds that do not have street addresses or addresses displayed. I'll say this, I think well over half and probably 3/4, if not more, of the campgrounds that are out there have street addresses. I just don't know that they actually have the number displayed. So that will probably be the issue with them. But nonetheless, they'll have 12 months after any amendments are made, and this provision stays in there to come into compliance with that. So it shouldn't be that big of an issue for them. But that's the only thing that's retroactive to existing campgrounds, at least as proposed by the planning board. The other change is the district allowances, for lack of a better term. In the CBI district, these campgrounds as well as RV parks and cabins used to be permitted. And so now we have grouped that under a category termed special requirements. If you're in a CBI district, these are going to be your special requirements. If you're in the RA district and it's a conditional use, those are going to be your requirements. The requirements are the same. The difference is if you're in the CBI district, they're administratively handled. The permitting and the processing comes through our office. If you're in the RA district or the neighborhood business district, we're going to process the application, but then are going to come in front of this board for a conditional use permit. And that's the way it has been. Does that make sense? I know we had a discussion about length of stay and did this come up? And it did come up. The committee, we talked about it at least 2 of the 3 or 4 meetings we had, and what we came back to, the general thought was this definition for a recreational vehicle is going to be the litmus test for these things. Provided that they're fully licensed and ready for highway use, we're not going to really regulate the length of stay. If you remember from the staff memo, we looked at 18 different counties and 3 municipalities for their standards, and we created a matrix to sort of get an idea what everyone else is doing. And if my memory serves me correctly, I believe that 15 out of those 21 didn't address length of stay either. And so it's not something that we're really equipped to monitor effectively. And I think that was part of the problem that our committee as well as the planning board saw as well. You can put a time limit in there, but I don't know how you really enforce it. And so our thought was that if these units are licensed and they're ready to be mobile, then I don't think they're permanent. That's sort of our collective thought on it. So if you got any other questions, I'm certainly open to try to answer them or write them down, and we'll come back at another time.
Ed, I'd just like for you to clarify for the general public that the reason we're requesting these identifications to be put on the different lots, street names, is for emergency services.
Absolutely, yes, yes, sir. That was overwhelmingly one of the things that they requested from us.
Ed, do you have any idea at all, ballpark, as far as how many campers that are really full-time residents in our county right now?
No, I don't have a way to really gauge that either. But that being said, I think a fair number of the campgrounds in the county do have power poles that provide, year-round electricity. And one of the gentlemen that sat with us, who's a campground owner, told us that his method for renting these spaces is on an annual basis. And I think that's fairly commonplace for High Rock Lake. And so that resonated with our committee as well as the planning board. I don't think they were really trying to eliminate that type of recreation use.
But they still have to have the wheels on?
If they're going to come through as a new park, yes. That particular requirement is not retroactive to the existing ones, no ma'am.
Why not?
Well, that could be a standard. If this board wants to put that in place, you could make that requirement. But that's not
Was there discussion on the planning board about that?
about,
About retroactive as far as the mobility of the structure vehicle?
no ma'am,
Okay.
no.
You know, a lot of those facilities down there, the mobile homes, they do take it off and underpin a lot of them. And then when they get tired of being there, they just rent, or they'll sell the mobile home to somebody, and then the lot stays leased that way. And so I know I've been a part of that at one time. You just you can sell the property there, but that doesn't mean that you automatically have the right to the lot. Generally, it does go along with it, but that's why they're not concerned about the wheels on. It's one of the reasons that I think that they're not concerned about whether the wheels are on there or not. In that, Ed, my concern with all of this has not been anything much more than the trying to get a septic tank, a workable septic tank, or a system where these units or people that are camping overnight have some sort of facility where they're able to use facilities that are controlled. Now, the regular, not the mobile campers, but the regular campers, do most of them have those facilities now?
I think most of them do, or they have some type of bath facility there.
Do we do any kind of inspections on that? I didn't see that this is calling for any kind of annual inspection or anything like that.
Well, for the ones that have systems in the ground, the bathhouses, I think they do get an inspection by the health department. But I don't think that if they have a dump station or a septic system, I don't think that it's inspected on an annual basis. I think could be like the septic system at your house. Only when it's malfunctioning do you call somebody to pump it out. I will have to check on that. I don't know for certain, but that's my thought.
Is there any way to verify those properties and verify their septic system? Is there something that allows the health department to go in on our older parks?
I don't know, but we can check on that. And I guess the only reason that they would check on them is that it's some type of unique system. Again, I use the analogy of the system at your home. I mean, when a property's conveyed from one person to the next, the health department doesn't come out and check the septic system unless the realtor or the buyer or something like that wants to get it evaluated. So unless there's a special class or a permit, or something like that, I don't think they really have the authority to just go in and check it on a whim, unless it presents a problem. You know, I can find the answer to that. I'm sorry, I just really don't know.
Actually, being on the health department board, I can tell you, no, they don't have the authority. But I believe that that is something that we need to do if we're going to inspect annually all the other facilities. Then I think those older facilities need to be inspected once a year also.
I have two questions. One is, and you guys, I've got a copy of this that you all put together, and you spent a lot of time doing that, so thank you. Compares, I don't know, 15, 18 counties and their standards. So the two that I have a question about is, did they address the issue of additions being added? You know, a lot of times you've got a small travel trailer that now has a whole house built around it. So those don't appear to be temporary any longer. They're
Right. We did. We talked about them. The answer to that question is there was no thought to prohibit people from making additions. But that being said, those additions are supposed to be freestanding. They can't be supported by the unit itself, and would also have to obtain a permit through the inspections department. And so I guess at the end of that thought process was that, well, if they get a permit and they're inspected and they comply, then they're fine. And so based on this definition of RV, they should be able to slip that RV out and put a new one in.
And I think that's part of the question, because I think pictures that we see doesn't appear that permits are being pulled. And then the second question.
But again, Commissioner Eds, this text only applies to campgrounds or RV parks after
Right.
a certain date.
Right.
At least the way this is proposed. There's nothing in it that's retroactive other than the addressing.
And what was my other question? Additions. I don't know, I can't remember what my other question was. So are we being asked to do something today? When does the moratorium expire?
February 6th. So what I would like to get is just what you're,
Oh, I know what it was.
go ahead.
Bathhouses,
Yes.
laundering, servicing buildings, toilet bathing, service building, bathhouses. Was that discussed, or, yeah, so was that
It was,
discussed?
but there's no requirement for for a bathhouse or dump station at the campgrounds, but the thought is that in these RV parks, you know, these units have some type of self-contained bathing kitchen facility, so the storage there with the dump station provides them a place to dump it. So to answer your question, no. Bathhouses, laundry facilities, you know, we talked about it in the context of that chart, who does and who doesn't, sort of gave them an idea of the number of counties or municipalities that do require them, but there didn't seem to be any indication to require that. But we can go back and talk about these things.
You know, the question came up, and I was out of town in your last one. Question came up about why are we even talking about this? And this is a hard topic to kind of navigate around, because we find real value in campgrounds and camping facilities on High Rock Lake. They do something for Rowan County and our economy. I mean, with a typical campground, you have people coming there on Friday night and hooking up and then enjoying your lake on the weekend. And so it brings dollars to the community, and it brings visitors to our community to see what a great community we have. Versus a campsite or campgrounds that have become permanent residences. And so as we try to not only in how we view our campgrounds, and we're really about the last county to the table to try to step up the quality of our campgrounds. Communities all around us have done this some time ago, and so we're really playing catch up. We don't want to get rid of campgrounds. They have real value to us in every sense, economic and tourism, and enjoying our natural resources. But as we have real lax standards, then it creates some issues. If we don't want to add rules in order to compound the costs of people to enjoy our lake. But the fact is, the fewer the rules that we have, the cheaper it is to operate a campground, and you don't always get the good quality campgrounds that we're desiring. And so it's hard to navigate around that to decide where's the line that we draw, that we say, well, in talking with some of the folks that were at these meetings that own campgrounds, a lot of us maybe on the board have grown up camping or have taken our kids camping. And I know just last year my son and I took a tent up to the North Carolina-Virginia border, and it's, you know, $45 a night to primitive camp. And then we kayaked and fished for a couple of days. But when you look at the cost that some of these local campgrounds are charging, you know, the cost is down into sometimes pennies a day or just a few dollars. So the more I talk, the bigger trouble I get into. So maybe I should just show. What we're trying to do across the county is to step our game up, whether it's economic development, whether it's jobs, whether it's education, it's all the way around. We're trying to step our game up and help Rowan County kind of meet the competition. And so I guess I've talked myself into a circle, and now I'm just going to be quiet. So,
Mr. Chairman, well, do we want to let Ed go? Or?
Yeah, so what do you have for us to do today? Really just table this and wait for you to, you know, are you going to come back with additional information?
Well, what I have, based on the comments that have been made this afternoon, is that There's a question about how or if the dump station or septic systems are inspected annually, whether for ones that are permitted now or the older ones, see what the requirements are, how often they inspect them. Do we want to regulate, or are we concerned about additions to units? Does there need to be anything in our text that addresses that? And then about bathhouse facilities. Those are the 3 items that I have. So unless there's anything else that comes out, or I get some type of email, these will be the things that the planning board will talk about one more time, and then they'll most likely hold their courtesy hearing sometime, maybe this month, but probably in December. And then they'll forward their recommendation after that courtesy hearing to this board for scheduling a hearing. And that will be about it.
Ed, I want to echo what Commissioner Green said about public safety. I don't know that we can really get a hold of some of the things that are going on out there that I have been told by our health inspector go on. If we do not require all of our campsites to have a yearly inspection and make sure they have the proper septic system, it's this is about the health and safety of our citizens and those who come to visit. And I would hope that this board would seriously consider looking backward, not just forward.
Anything else?
No, item 7, these are all new standards, right?
Yes.
I think it's a huge step. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. All right, item number 5. Got Caleb. Is Caleb here? It's about property donation for a potential satellite sheriff station.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I'm here on behalf of Sheriff Alton and the Sheriff's Office. We were approached back about a year ago about a parcel of property that was located at 100 South Enochville Avenue in Kannapolis. It was a former bank location that's now vacant. The building's still there. There is a teller machine, I believe, still on the property. But it's a 2.28 acre tract of property. The value of the property, I think, is $269,186, and the parcel ID number is 249BBoy406. It's presently owned by First Tennessee Bank, and through their holding company, which is Fisher Company in Memphis, Tennessee, they have offered this property to the county for use as a satellite sheriff's office. You know, the closest office that we have right now is in Landis to that location, and we don't really have an on-site location in the Enochville community. We think it would be a good benefit to us to have that location there as a place for meeting with witnesses, a place for officers to go do reports, to take a bathroom break. And it would be really good to have that presence there. We would not man that location 24 hours a day, but we would have a presence there every day if it works the way we want it to work.
Will this require additional staffing?
No, it would not. I think that Caleb Sinclair would say, I think they've already done an initial environmental impact on it.
Yes, the Phase 1 AST and Phase 1 environmental site assessment has been performed, which revealed no sort of environmental concerns. So
I think I read it said no significant.
Right.
So what does that mean?
I think that's sort of common verbiage for green light. You know, nowhere on our planet hasn't been impacted by peoples. So no significant concern means they didn't find any low-level, the obvious low-hanging fruit environmental concerns. There is, I can tell you, a monitoring well on the property already, which didn't have any records. We couldn't find any records on that monitoring well, so we did sample, and there's also a drinking water well on the property that was sampled as well. So everything came out okay.
Why, have you looked at this? Why would there be a monitoring well?
That's pretty common if you're adjacent to, say, a service station, which the Cross Corner has been a service station for many, many years. So that's a potential reason it was there. Unfortunately, the state nor the county has any record of that well. But again, that's sort of one of the reasons we brought in a contractor for that ASTM Phase 1 environmental site assessment. So we feel pretty confident that there's no environmental concern.
No, it's fine. It might be related to something on another property just to check migration of underground, but nothing responsible connected to this particular property. But it's good, and just to say that we worked a long time ago to develop standards when we acquire property to go through this kind of due diligence to make sure. And so that was good that they followed those steps.
So you're satisfied?
We're good. Yeah, the only thing we'll have to work out, they do want to lease back the teller machine. So they want to leave the teller machine and just have a lease back, but we have several teller machines on county properties that we do leases already, so that won't be out of the ordinary.
Okay. Mike, that's your community. What do you want to add?
No, yeah, I'm excited for the opportunity. I think it's been sitting vacant for many years. It burned out once, and they rebuilt it, and then the bank closed 5 or 6 years ago, I guess. And one of the things that we've talked about a little bit is maybe the possibility, if it works out, of also being able to put a convenience center there. Our convenience center we had in Kannapolis was closed because they had to take the property back. So if it works, I think Caleb's still working through the process of whether or not we could also have that there. And also a recycle area, for instance, for televisions. I know I had a television I had to get rid of and I had to drive it to Spencer. So I think is that the only place we can turn televisions in now?
Yes.
So we may be able to have also a place in the southern part of the county where we can do some recycling. And it would be nice, to have a place for the deputies to do reports and, be in the community more, especially when we're that far south in the county. But it looks, it's a great idea, and I'm glad that this came up. It's right there beside the Dollar General across the street from the 7-Eleven. I think that's why the monitor well's there. There's a cell tower behind it, and then there's a church over to the one side. So it kind of fits in. It'll kind of fit in the area.
Mr. Manager, anything to add?
No, we went out to the property. It seems like it was last winter because it was cold when we were out there. Before this, we had been looking for land for a convenience site, and we haven't had a lot of luck. So it may work out that we were able to do both there. The only thing is there is limited space, but we may be able to do something creative. We've been looking for a site for Kannapolis since we lost the lease, or the lease expired?
Yeah, Kannapolis Kannapolis City owns the property, and they were sort of allowing us to be there, and they've done their parks started to expand, and they asked us to close her down, but we were sort of in a squatter's situation at the time.
So maybe next winter we'll have the paperwork done, and then the next winter we can do something. But it was cold when we were out there, I remember. It's a nice piece of property. I mean, the building's still nice. It's a mobile unit, but it's a nice unit.
So you're saying you expect it to take 3 years for somebody to give us property?
Well, no, I'm just saying it could.
Oh.
It could take a while. I mean, It's been about a year since we've been talking with them.
It is. The spokesperson for the bank has vocalized most recently that they're geared up and ready to go, move forward with the donation, so I don't believe it'll be much longer.
So you good with this? Think it'll meet our needs? Okay. All right, any other questions for these guys?
Has the taxes been paid up to date?
Jay will check that out for sure.
They will be. Okay.
All right, if no
Have to write anything off.
questions, do we have a motion to accept the Community One First National Bank and Trust donation of real property located at 100 South Enochville Avenue, Kannapolis?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you. Thanks, guys. Miss Amy.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. I'm Amy Lynn Albertson, County Extension Director, and with me today is Kim Starnes, our Chair of our Agriculture Advisory Board, and Kim is going to present to you what we as a board have suggested for revisions to Ordinance 8.5 Farmland Preservation.
Thank you, Amy Lynn. Our board wants to update our present ordinance. The state statutes have changed over the last couple of years that puts this program in place, and the county needs to update ours to reflect the changes in the state statute. So that's the primary reason that we present this. There are some other changes where it would streamline the approval process when somebody wants to put their land in the voluntary ag district program or the enhanced voluntary ag district program, and a couple little minor changes as to our frequency of meetings, and it just sort of brings everything up to date with how we're conducting business today. None of these changes affects our tax base. None of it affects zoning or anything like that. So,
Would one of you like to kind of go through and tell us what you think the changes are?
okay. I think y'all have a copy in front of you. You want me to go every little change, or
Well,
just kind of the?
Jim and I went to breakfast with Amy Lynn and talked with her, and she just kind of explained to us what the overall changes were and why.
Okay.
So maybe
Right.
just a
High
high level, yeah.
Okay. One of the changes is that we would bring you a report every year instead of every time someone requests to go into the program, that we would come to you for that approval. We could, and this is the way we're wanting it changed too, is the way that it's done in other counties. Is where our board can go ahead and put the land in the program and bring you a report annually instead of having, to come say every quarter or whatever, for our time and y'all's time, to kind of streamline that process. We've typically been meeting once a quarter, every 3 months instead of 2 months. That was one of the changes. The biggest change is on page 4, where we put in the definition of agriculture, and this comes from a state statute, and that was just for reference, that a farm would have to meet one of those requirements to go in the program. And this is all, like I said, coming more from a change in the state statute where we're trying to mirror that. There was a few minor changes where we just changed some wording, where when a person does turn in an application, they could turn it in to any board member or cooperative extension, and then we would bring it to the meeting at that point. It did initially say turn it in just to the chairman, but we felt like, if somebody sees another board member, they would have that opportunity too.
On page 4, it says at the top, a minimum of 5 acres and meets one of the criteria listed in the definition. Has that amount of acreage changed? Didn't that go up?
No. So the way the ordinance was written previously, any parcel that wanted to enroll in the voluntary ag district had to meet the requirements for the present use value program, the tax deferment program for farms and forestry, which was a minimum of 5 acres in horticulture, 10 acres in agriculture, or 20 acres in forestry. The state statute has changed, so that is no longer a requirement that the land qualify for present use value. Instead, they meet the definition of farming and have the $1,000 on a Schedule F federal income statement. So our board put in a 5-acre minimum as the minimum for our ordinance. Some counties have no minimums. Some have 1-acre minimums. Our board felt that 5 acres was a good minimum to put in place for the voluntary ag district, particularly in the case of public hearings, which are in the ordinance. If a eminent domain or other issues come into place, a public hearing is required. Our board wasn't interested in holding public hearings over a 1-acre small, even though you can be an active producing farm on 1 acre, that issue just, we felt like might not really be that important for that scale. So we looked at 5 acres as our minimum.
All right, so all you're asking for us to do tonight is to schedule the public hearing for our next meeting. So we'll have some time to review these further, ask you questions, and then we'll have the public hearing?
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. We need a motion to schedule the public hearing.
I'd like to make a motion that we set the public hearing for November the 19th.
Second.
All right. Any further discussion? All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Thank you.
Thank you, good to see you. Ms. McGuire, or is Calvin come? Wow.
Good afternoon. If you can't hear me, I had a dental appointment earlier today, so I guess it's fitting we're talking about revaluation on that same day. So what I have before you, and I think it's in your packets, and if not, I have an actual hard copy for each one of you if you want it. But I think at the last time we did this 4 years ago, it was online for you in each of your packets of materials, so we didn't provide another one immediately. What I have before you today is presenting to you the 2019 schedule of values. January 1/19 is the future effective date for the next revaluation. In presenting these to you today, this is a foundation for us of what gives us guidance for all types of properties, land, building, and improvements for the residential and commercial properties and industrial. And it also gives to you, as Amy Linda just spoke about, present use value for the farming and agricultural properties that we also have. That's a standardized value for that. So in presenting this to you, any questions or anything like that, I'll be happy to answer. But going forward, the idea is that there is a public hearing that would be scheduled at the next meeting, which would be on the 19th. And after the 19th, the adoption of these would be on your first meeting in December. And then after that adoption, we would advertise for 4 consecutive weeks after that for those schedules. So in today's motion, this is to satisfy the need that we presented those to you, and then they will be in our office, in the tax office, for public inspection for anyone who wants to see it. We'll also actually have those online for anyone who wants to view those there, but the one in our office is a requirement that we have there for that, so that it's displayed and it is the actual copy of what we presented to you.
Any question for Calvin? If not, do we have a motion to schedule a public hearing for November 19th regarding the schedule of values for 2019?
So moved.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, thank you. Next item is budget amendments that were provided for us. Is there a motion to approve those budget amendments?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Microphone problem. All right, board appointments, I believe we have one. Zoning, wait a second, Housing Authority, Gary Yelton's term expired on August 31, 2018. He has continued to serve and has applied for reappointment for a term of 5 years, beginning November 5th. Let's see. All right, Mark Goodnight has applied to fill the Kannapolis vacancy. Mr. Goodnight will also serve a 5-year term. So do we have a motion to approve Garrett Yelton and Mark Goodnight's applications for the Housing Authority?
So moved.
Thank
Second.
you. All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Sean Reed has applied to fill an at-large vacancy on the Zoning Board of Adjustment. Do we have a motion to accept Mr. Reed's application?
So moved.
Second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anything else for the cause?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All right, thank you very much. All in favor say aye.
Aye. Here, I want you to take my copy too.